This program was made possible by the FIP Department of Science Communications and from generous donations from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to a presentation by the FIP Department of Astrolinguistics. My name is Buddy Ravioli, but you can call me Buddy, or even Ravioli for short. I am a biomechanical consciousness and will be your host tonight. Today, we will be covering the Mlini language, the administrative language of the Greater Dominion of the Orb, located in dimension
298Q.
The Orb is a birch world with Earth-like gravity at the center of our galaxy. It functions as a core for its empire and is inhabited by a myriad of lifeforms from across the galaxy. The Orb itself is a post-scarcity democratic city-state that was founded by its mysterious current ruler and emperor. Details about the emperor themselves are rather vague. Still, she has been spotted and described a few times, resulting in some very different details that are interpreted by a few to mean that she is a shapeshifter of sorts. Regardless, the Emperor built up the society alongside its elected council and turned it into a sanctuary for misfits of the galaxy. The Mlini language itself is the main language of administration and lingua franca of the sovereigns of the Orb, with it most prominently being spoken in the planet's urban north, centered upon the planet's capital of Yari. The world itself is mostly rural, with the aforementioned Megalopolis centered at its north pole, and the other 80% of its surface being either rural or untouched wilderness. Over the centuries, many different cultures from across the galaxy have mingled and influenced this language, making it into what it is today. The origins of the language date back to the Information Age of Old Earth. The language comes from a mixed language of the languages and dialects spoken by the Emperor in their younger years. Two main languages influenced it, the Celtic language Breton being the most prominent. The other is up for debate in many academic circles, but seem to originate from a mix of Anglo-Romani and Cockney English features. For example, most of the original words and some grammar trace their lineage back to Breton, while the pronunciation and some specific terms originate from Cockney English with Romani influences. Over time, the uplifted beings brought to this planet would learn the language as a way to communicate with others who do not speak the same native language, each bringing with them influence from their own languages along the way. These led to the language taking on a life of its own as the inhabitants began to build an identity of their own through group solidarity for their struggles to get to the Orb. These different biological backgrounds influenced the language heavily as it developed, even if it has a lower rate of phonological shift compared to most human languages. To explain the phonology of this language, one needs to know more of the history of the Orb. At first, the phonology and grammar of the Mlini language weren't too different from any human language. Sure, they might have been perceived as odd, but they were certainly not as alien as others out in the galaxy. This all changed, however, when the center of human society, their home planet of Urathu, was bombarded by solar flares, forcing the inhabitants of not only their home planet, but nearby colonies within the system to evacuate. This left an ideological void where the influence of humans once stood. The speakers of the Mlini language were now free to innovate beyond the habits and trends of the human mind. These can be seen with its modern phonology, which contain many sounds that aren't found in human languages, including some that are somatic, as in physical signs. As those of a sign language, to represent these sign parts of the language, we will use images along with the auditory versions to provide a complete picture of the language. Here is a quick montage of these signs and how they can be represented. The following is the rest of the language's phonology. Voicing, for the most part, is not contrastive in all dialects of the language. This is due to a high presence of speakers with long necks that are not able to produce those distinctions well. A peculiarity of the language's evolution is its presence of lateralized stops and nasals. This originated from a vowel shift where all vowels in the language went from having a velarized variant of each to the velarization evolving to have a lateral release of the consonant that preceded it, a process nearly identical to that of French langue. Otherwise, these velarized vowels would become pharyngalized. Speaking of which, the feature of pharyngalization is a part of an emphasis harmony that spreads in both directions and is blocked by front sounds such as the following. Other than that, the consonants of the language are pretty standard except for the allophonic realization of Q based on stress. Speaking of which, stress is predictable and always penultimate. The consonants of this language have a system that is called phonological pseudogroup, a feature entirely unique to this language. This system ensures that the consonants in each syllable, which are universally consonant vowel, does not border on either side a consonant of the same place or manner of articulation. In the language's history, if a word had a sound of this kind, the speakers began to modify the following consonant to make them less similar. Between the consonants and the vowels are the syllabic consonants of the language, which the speakers more interpret as plain vowels. They have a reputation for being rather unstable, as many allophones depend on factors such as age, career, region, faith, foot shape, mandible length, and presence of mandibles, among other aspects. For the sake of clarity, we will document the most common ones for each of them. This is the first one of these to evolve, as it originates from a neutral E-like vowel that got raised into its modern iteration. This sound originates from uvularized vowels and became the way it is because of the influence of Mantis people, who make up a large part of the language's influence, along with the inhabitants of the city of Yash and its surrounding areas. The uvularized sounds that these came from predate the ones of the modern language. These uvular sounds came from some final velar consonants, and once final consonants were dropped, they only left traces in this new wondrous sound. This sound originated from a similar origin to syllabic z, far more recent. It evolved from a distant back high oo sound that was used to break up consonant clusters in the language. This sound has a few allophones shown here, but varies far less than the other two. The pure vowels themselves are rather simple and slot into 6 qualities. The language has a wealth of pronouns that reaches into the several hundreds depending on how you count. For the sake of sanity, we will focus on the main useful ones for the translation at the end of this presentation. The most relevant feature of these pronouns to the translation is the fact that they mark modality for the noun phrase. The syntax of the language itself follows the animate first principle, meaning that the more animate a noun is the more close it appears to the start of the sentence. Due to exposure from the Roctopi language, the Mlini language has taken on a nearly identical system of animacy hierarchy. In these phrases, the verb is either the first element or second, with the first argument being fronted to the start of the sentence for extra emphasis. An alternative way to emphasize a word in this language is via full reduplication. The language uses a system similar to the Lojban descendant language Google. All adjectives follow the nouns they modify, parentheses being employed for any scenario where there are 2 or more adjectives to add specificity to the noun phrase. Groups of adjectives, relative clauses, and a few other cases require the use of grammaticalized parentheses indicated with these words. Before the closing paragraph, relative classes require a classifier to specify which part of the relative clause is being referred to. We return to the pronouns for a brief moment. Each sentence starts with a frame word, which is typically composed of a pronoun indicating whose perspective the sentence follows, along with the modality for the sentence. This modality typically includes the speaker's perspective and opinions on the event, along with evidentials indicating which sense they observe this phenomenon with the default unmarked version being the sense of smell. The language's verbs have a strong system of auxiliary verbs that originate from combos of the language's pronouns and auxiliary verbs. These are essential if one would like to indicate the tense of a sentence. To indicate tense, a tense noun will be incorporated into the auxiliary verb. These differ from most languages as they indicate which part of the solar year the events take place in. These tense markers are inflected with the system of plurality in this language. plurality in this language is rather simple and is not far different from the original Breton system of plurality, just with some simplifications. The following is the long-awaited translation, one to show the wonders of this language, which will be read out by our human correspondent.
Mlirch fu saint la plizu mlichu tle lietlu amli la fluch faklin la peyet yes nak shvu pu pe la arepu la nijpu la wes khel nik res Mlirch fu la amli la tle feli tle yera nicht la mlkla pe la Klera mist la zikla tla mafutla
Erumle.
Klöjera amli laife lahi mötla ife jes la klöjera pli het klöjera amli la klif rana Tskbrla Klöjera Plifura Zon e ala Plifura Plifura